I'm Christy,
And I'm Kathy.
and this is The Psychic
And the Skeptic. Welcome back to The Psychic and the Skeptic. And on this episode, we will be continuing our series on Civil War ghosts. In this 6-part episode, we are discussing the Antietam National Battlefield in Sharpsburg, Maryland. To give you a little background and to refresh your memory, there were 12 battlefields primarily used during the Civil War, and we only discussed 6 of these 12, as these are the ones that had the most paranormal activity. And because we didn't want to make this a 12-part series, we are just sticking to those places that have the most sightings and the most stories and the most excitement around the paranormal.
Yeah, we basically condensed 12 into 6.
The Battle of Antietam would have been the 6th battle of the Civil War.
So, if these places that are so traumatic hold all this memory of this trauma, like residual, then Antietam might actually be one of the most emotionally charged places of all these Civil War places. So, in this episode, we're not only just going to tell the ghost stories associated with this, but we're going to talk about some of that battle history, what happened, documented eyewitness testimonies, and of course, the paranormal claims. And then we have Kathy. She'll give you a scientific explanation.
Exactly. And that matters here because Antietam isn't just any battlefield. It was the deadliest single day in American military history. The battle took place on September 17th, 1862, and had about 23,000 casualties,
Wow.
killed, wounded, missing, or captured, and only in about 12 hours of actual fighting.
That is a lot of death.
And these Civil War battlefields and these historic locations are claimed to be some of the most haunted locations in all of the U.S.
Yeah, one day, I swear, I'm going to go visit. I just am. I would just love to go stand and
yeah.
just see what I feel and what I get.
I just can't wait till we get to the episode where we cover Gettysburg.
Oh, I
'Cause
know.
I've actually been there, but I don't have any memory of anything unique or questionable happening during my time there. But
Think you could have appreciated it a little better.
after hearing all these stories, it's just very interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe there's nothing going on there. Maybe it's just the lore, but I don't know.
Maybe you and I could take a trip one day
We should.
and just go.
And bring our audio recorder and an EMF detector.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
The National Park Service does explain that Antietam's casualty totals were so catastrophic and that the fighting devastated places like the Cornfield, the Dunkard Church area, the Sunken Road, and then later, of course, it was called Bloody Lane, as you can imagine. But then there was also the lower bridge that's now called Burnside Bridge. So the scale of death and suffering at these places is very essential for why visitors who come to these locations say that it's haunted.
So we're going to look at this chronologically. First, the battle, then the aftermath, and then later the ghost stories or reports, just like what we've been doing with the other episodes in this series. And finally, we'll ask the big question, are these spirits residual hauntings? Is this human suggestion, which is where I lean towards?
Or intelligent hauntings.
Environmental cues are a big thing. So we're going to see repeated themes in this episode, but unique to this specific area. Or perhaps it's a blend of all of these concepts. So before we talk about the hauntings, we need to talk about the history, right?
Right.
So with the Battle of Antietam, this was where Robert E. Lee first invaded the North. And those of you who are unaware of American history or Civil War history, Robert E. Lee was a famous general from the Confederacy or from the South. So on September 17th, 1862, Union forces were under the command of General George B. McClellan, and they attacked Robert E. Lee's army in northern Virginia near Sharpsburg. So the battle unfolded in phases. We had early morning fighting in the Cornfield and around the Dunkard Church area. By mid-morning, combat moved to the Sunken Road, and by late day, the battle moved to Burnside Bridge and the areas beyond.
They were moving pretty quickly, weren't they, for one day's time?
Right? Yeah, they probably hear all this musket fire and think, oh, that's where all the action is. And they cluster to these certain areas and move as casualties start filling up the battlefield.
Right. And if you really do a study on these haunted battlefields and these locations, the paranormal reports focus on the specific areas. And that's because more things happened there. So, for example, paranormal reports at Bloody Lane. There were so many people who died there, and even at Burnside Bridge, because as these soldiers were trying to cross the bridge, they were basically under fire and being gunned down.
So they're all in a focal point. So more of them get killed or injured in that one area, creating all kinds of trauma to imprint on that environment.
Mhm.
So the National Park Service says that the Bloody Lane Trail had about 5,500 men killed or wounded after just 3 hours of combat.
Jeez. And this is what paranormal investigators would call a trauma imprint site, because there was just so much emotional energy that was just left behind.
Right. And then there's that paranormal theory of residual type haunting. The stress creates enough energy to create a permanent hologram in the area.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Making for paranormal experiences. And that just always is a head scratcher. Even you've had this question before. The environmental conditions have to be just so for you to experience some kind of paranormal activity. I could see how this bridges that skeptic mind to agree, because it has to do with the environment and actual energy, which is measurable.
Right. If I'm in a location and I experience something paranormal and I'm trying to figure out, wait a second, is this intelligent? Is this residual? The best way I can explain it is that the energy just feels different with intelligent and the residual. I can just tell a difference.
Do you think it's
Stronger with intelligent, I guess, would be the best way.
like a wavelength or a stronger electromagnetism or something like that?
You're getting too scientific there.
Like radio frequencies, different channels.
Well,
Higher vibration, lower vibration,
yeah,
anything
I
like
guess
that?
you can kind of say it that way. With the intelligent, it's just stronger for me than what the residual is. So I don't know. That's how I tell the difference. It's kind of hard to explain, but
See,
that's how
and
I
when
do
we
it.
investigate as paranormal investigators, I determine residual versus intelligent based on whether it can answer questions
Yeah, through the
or
equipment.
if it doesn't seem to be anything that makes sense with what we're doing,
Right.
right? It's not in response to us, not like it's like footsteps down a hallway just at random times, to me, is more residual because it's not interacting with us. It's not intentional. It doesn't seem it, especially if it's walking away.
It could be, but what if you have a ghost that's there? You just don't see them, but they're creating the footsteps.
But if we're all sitting down and it's just random footsteps, that's what I mean. It doesn't fit with the context of the situation.
Okay, so if we were in a hallway and we were investigating and we start to hear footsteps, but you or whoever else doesn't see them, but I see a ghost
That's
walking
different. That's
down the
why we
hall.
bring you along.
Don't make me the bloodhound.
In my head, I'm picturing the mansion in Atchison, Kansas, the famous
McIntyre
skeptic
Villa.
experience of footsteps. But what happened there was a very traumatic event having to do with weaponry and guns. And here we're talking about battlefields in the Civil War. So I feel like a lot of this, just based on what we've seen and what we know about the paranormal, this is probably a lot of residual type activity and not necessarily intelligent, just with all the emotional trauma.
Oh, I agree there.
Yeah.
And I think some could even be like time slip, to be honest. Do you remember?
Now we're getting deep.
Yeah, I won't get too deep into it, but we did do an episode on that if you're interested in time
Yeah, go
slips.
back and listen to that one. too,
Exactly.
especially if you think that's what's going on here.
Yeah, but at that one last investigation that we went to, remember the closet with the Confederate soldier that we saw? I saw, you did see, but me and Tammy saw.
The very last investigation?
Remember? The
No.
Four Winds? So there was the closet that was in that dining room, and when we opened it up, the Confederate soldier that I saw was coming through on our realm.
I don't think
when
I
he
was there
went
for
back,
that.
When he went back, it
Mhm.
was back into his time, back in the 1800s.
So he's like, whoops, my bad.
Oh, no, he comes here. It was really weird because it's like it was the same location, just different times.
Mhm. So whether these paranormal experiences are true accounts of ghosts, visitors do know that they're standing where thousands have died.
Sure.
So that alone can prime the brain into thinking or interpreting these sensations as something paranormal. But it doesn't make the emotional impact fake. It just changes how we explain it.
It would be the same if a person takes a tour or goes into a place that has been said to be haunted. They're automatically on guard. They're looking for things. And
Right.
so we know from experience, at that point, everything's a ghost.
Right. And that's what I say all the I think I've trained you well, Christy.
Listen.
But let's get into the history of these specific locations.
Okay.
So first is the Cornfield and Dunker Church.
Right.
Early morning, September 17th, 1862, the Cornfield at Dunker Church is iconic. It's interconnected landmarks of the Battle of Antietam. It's a 40-acre cornfield, and it saw relentless fighting with 2,200 casualties in just 20 minutes.
Good grief.
And nearby, the Dunker Church served as a major Confederate landmark and focal point for these brutal assaults. Ultimately, this church was damaged by heavy cannon fire. It's situated south of the Miller Farm, which was a 40-acre field of chest-high cornfield. So this became the epicenter of the fight. So great places to hide, like Children of the Corn. So as dawn breaks, the fighting began at 5:30 in the morning with an assault by Union Major General Joseph Hooker's 1st Corps against the Confederate.
What a last name,
Yeah.
Hooker.
So these men were going in shoulder to shoulder through rows of these cornfields, and some of them were even taller than themselves. So they had some great coverage there.
Mhm.
But smoke, screaming, musket fire, artillery, confusion was everywhere. As these units advanced, they broke, reform, and disappeared into the haze. So the field changed hands multiple times, described by the soldiers as artillery hell. By the end of the day, not a single stalk was left standing higher than a few inches.
Poor corn.
So I know, but that's a lot of artillery, right?
Mm-hmm.
You completely harvested all the corn all at once right there.
And 40 acres? Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
That would have been a lot of corn to destroy.
Yeah, but instead of corn, now lies thousands of bodies.
And you know what I don't think was fair too was these people. So, example, the Miller Farm, they obviously harvested corn and that would be their livelihood to sell that. And then people just come in and destroy that. They have no right to do that. I'd be madder than a hornet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this probably happened at so many different properties. We've already talked in our other episodes on the series about homes being used for hospitals, just taken over by soldiers. You know, this is where that amendment comes from, a right to protect your property.
Right. It's where you don't have to take in a soldier.
Right. We have a constitutional amendment that protects us
Mhm.
from the government taking over our home for purposes of situations like this.
Right.
Wartime, just squatting and using your home as their property. And that happens in a lot of other countries to this day that don't have those kind of rights. The Union Army had a goal to take high ground near the Dunker Church by pushing through this cornfield. So Dunker Church itself was built in 1852 by the German Baptist Brethren, and they practiced that full immersion baptism, which is why they call it the Dunker Church, which I like that.
That is pretty
You're
catchy.
gonna dunk our whole thing.
Come on in, we're going to dunk you underneath the water.
Yeah, and you're saved. So again, this was a key visible landmark. It sat on some pretty high ground, so this is always a coveted place. And it experienced the battle's most intense fighting. Confederate troops were under Stonewall Jackson to defend this area. Post-battle, this church was heavily damaged by the artillery, and we have a picture of it we can post to our
Like
Facebook
the old
and
one and the
Insta-
new one.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll post it to our Facebook and Instagram pages. It was used as a hospital after the fighting had stopped, which is typical of any structure in that area. You drag the injured in there, you care for them. It was also used as an embalming station, not just a hospital. So it served as like a morgue at the same
That's
time.
interesting.
But the building eventually collapsed in 1921 after a storm. So they rebuilt it for the 100th anniversary in 1962. We
Wow.
have a picture of the new rebuild, which side by side with the old picture, it's exact. It's a perfect replica,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing. But the fighting for this particular area of the battle stretched from the cornfield through the West Woods to the church and is considered the most chaotic and violent, key words for paranormal investigators, section of the bloodiest single day in American history.
Wow.
So the National Park Service's eyewitness material preserves firsthand recollections of the battle's horror. One correspondent wrote that they found a Union soldier near Dunker Church with his face turned upward and an open Bible on his chest. It was one of many records showing how deeply personal and intimate the death at Antietam was, especially to strike somebody so much so that they wrote that much detail down.
And there is written accounts of where there were men found who were carrying Bibles, letters, lockets, prayers, their promises to return home. So you can imagine if someone died like that, why there would be so much energy into
Yeah.
this one place. And,
Emotional imprinting.
right. These men, it sounds like, were very spiritual.
And the fact that this section was or is considered the bloodiest single day in American history is surprising to me because of all that we hear about other locations, especially Gettysburg.
Right.
That's surprising. Maybe these statistics are gathered through the battle itself versus any particular single day event. But Antietam is also well known.
Right.
So mid-morning, we're at the Sunken Road. And this is now known as Bloody Lane because of this pivotal, deadly 3-hour battle. There were 2,200 Confederates defending a natural trench that was used as a road during that time. And they were defending against 10,000 Union troops, so
Wow.
clearly outnumbered. And 5,500 soldiers were killed or wounded in this area.
If you look at the pictures too, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because you can see the old and then the old trench and the black and white or sepia.
Yes, and you can
tone.
see the bodies in that photo too.
You can. And I wonder, did they just leave the bodies there or and bury them?
Well, it was a road and they had transport, so they actually had a detail come in and remove the bodies. They were 2 or 3 bodies deep laying in that trench.
Dang, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so these are dead Confederate soldiers. So the Union detail had to remove the bodies. This is their enemy. So I don't know if they respectfully removed them. It was probably just cleaning up a road, trying to clear the road so that we can carry on with transport and travel and move the battle along.
But back then, burial practices were pretty important. So I would think as they removed them, they relocated and
If they were Union soldier burying their own, they would have probably been more respectful. But they buried them in trenches nearby. What they were trying to do was clear the road.
Yeah.
So they weren't individually buried in their own uniform grave. They were the Union burying the guys they just killed.
Yeah, they didn't have time to put them in individual graves.
Right. So you already know
mm-hmm.
that it wasn't done in a way that they probably would have preferred their bodies to be handled.
Yeah, if you look at the modern day pictures of this trench too, and again, we'll post them on our Instagram and Facebook pages, but you can still see how it's sunk down.
Oh, yeah. That was a natural trench that the locals made into a road at that time that just happened to end up being like the beginnings of trench warfare at the time, but they were trapped there and killed.
Right.
So they died on the spot.
Hiding out in it, trying to fight from it, and then, died where they were.
It was a transport road, so you're just kind of a sitting duck there.
Right.
Yeah, so the Confederate troops were under Colonel John B. Gordon, and they were holding the line with orders not to fire until Union troops were extremely close. So that could have contributed to some of their deaths, just having to wait till the very last minute, and then it might have been too late. But so again, Union forces eventually took this position after taking advantage of a misunderstood order that caused some Confederates to retreat, creating a gap in their line. So Alexander Gardner took those original photographs that are haunting because they have images of those who are deceased.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell, but if you look close enough, you can see the bodies in the images.
Right. It's like any journalist that goes into any spot in war. You get photographs and you're going to get photos of people that have passed away.
Right. And they were there to document so that we're aware of the history in hopes to not repeat that kind of history. And in fact, it worked because once they published these photos in the newspaper, it shocked the public and made them aware of the tragedy that was occurring in these battlefields. So what those photographers didn't realize at the time was we'd be sitting here talking about paranormal experiences as a result.
Like what, 150 years later?
Right. And with all the stories that have happened since then, as
Mhm.
far as experiences, paranormal phenomenon, it's hard to find the original sources of some of these personal accounts. So the Federal Highway Administration actually has a history that documents the eyewitness style reports associated with this bloody lane.
So let's talk about some of those reports that are associated with Dunker Church and the surrounding cornfield. There are a lot of visitors who say, hey, we hear gunfire, and then we also smell gunpowder, like the burning of gunpowder. There's also a story of a vanishing Confederate soldier. A visitor claimed to see several men in Confederate uniforms walking this bloody lane. And they initially assumed that they were just reenactors, but they suddenly vanished. Then they were scratching their heads like, what the heck? Reenactors don't just vanish into thin air. Then we also have what was known as the schoolboys and the singing in the fields. So this is considered one of the most unusual reports with the FHWA. They said that some Baltimore schoolboys were walking along Bloody Lane and they heard some singing out in the field, like a chant or even like the Christmas song, like Deck the Halls.
Really?
So, and you know how Deck the Halls goes, Deck the halls with bells of jolly. Yeah. La 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 la. Would that be so unusual to hear singing and it sounds like Deck the Halls?
And this wasn't even around Christmas time.
No.
So we have maybe the tune got
Yeah.
changed over time and they put
Maybe.
words to it. I don't know.
I don't
We'd have
even
to
know.
look at the history of it.
Yeah, I don't even know what year Deck the Halls was even written. Do you?
Right. Because if it was after the fact, maybe they just stole the tune and just changed the words for a
Right.
Christmas song.
Because some people do that.
It'd be interesting.
So that's a very unusual claim.
And very specific. So that's one of those, you can't make that stuff up kind of stories, right?
Yes.
Who would have thought if you were trying to fake some kind of evidence, you'd pick like Happy Birthday or something,
Huh.
or some other kind of scary song.
Yeah, so I thought that was a pretty unique claim.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting.
And then, of course, over the years, you've got visitors who've reported things like footsteps that echo inside the empty church, the one that they have
The Dunker
rebuilt.
Church. Yeah.
Yeah. Then they also say they hear whispery voices. They also see some shadow figures that are near the front interior. So like on the outside of the building, they see these shadow figures in and around.
So just kind of like the hustle and bustle of the post-battle hospital scenario, lots of people in and out of
If
the
you're
church.
looking at it as residual, sure.
And when you look at the pictures, the rebuild of the old church, the Dunker Church,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like they put it pretty much right on the same footprint
Oh, yeah.
of where the building was.
And made it look like Dunker Church once was.
Yeah,
Like
no,
they-
it's like an exact replica. They did a good
Exactly.
job. So
Exactly.
I wonder, because you hear paranormal claims on locations where there's a new building in place of something that used to be there, but it's not the same thing. And some of those paranormal claims will mention people walking through walls because
Mhm.
the building that used to be there had an open hallway, that area.
Right.
So I wonder if some of that outside walking has something to do with that. Maybe it's just slightly off from where it used to be. It's
I don't know.
interesting.
If you look at the pictures,
yeah, I mean,
at the old picture and the new picture, it
Yeah.
it looks like they almost built it in the exact same spot to me.
Right.
Anyway.
yeah.
But this land that surrounds Dunker Church, especially the West Woods and Field, if you think about it, during this war, it was just covered with dead and dying. And some of these soldiers, wherever they fell, they laid there for days because there was just so many casualties. There was no medic that could
Right.
come and really tend to them. So they probably laid there suffering for days until they died,
yeah.
or
Yeah,
they
because we just assumed they died right away.
exactly.
Some
So
probably did, but the suffering would have definitely left an impression.
and according to history, this battle, there was 23,000 casualties in a single day, which is why we mentioned earlier it's considered one of the bloodiest in U.S. history. But across these fields, visitors and historians have also reported temperature drops.
It's so hard to point that kind of activity directly towards paranormal when you're outdoors.
I agree.
Even in my own neighborhood, there's cold spots at low points when you're walking through where an old creek was. It's not there anymore, but the air currents can be different in certain places.
Yeah.
And if this is a museum-like environment where people come and visit, they're not used to this area to know is this a common cold spot for this area.
Right.
And that same groupthink that we mentioned earlier, with everybody aware of the history and the impact that occurred at this location, their minds are
Expecting
already
it.
set on this is spooky, this is dark, horrible things happened here.
It's
so
a
your
ghost.
senses are heightened and you get a weird feeling and you think, oh, it's a ghost. I'm guilty of that. Even when we go on investigations where you walk into a creepy looking place, it's going to feel a little creepy until you settle into the environment and get used to it and know what's normal.
No, I totally agree with that. There's also people reporting this distant gunfire and even marching. And they see these apparitions of soldiers that are on patrol. So that's residual to me.
Oh, yeah,
honestly.
For sure. I mean, to see something like that, and there's no reenactors in this location,
Right.
that's compelling. But we see a trend here. This is that type of activity that helps solidify that residual paranormal theory. Because now you have so many accounts, so many opportunity. It's like anytime you do any kind of scientific research, the bigger the population that you test, the more likely you're going to have valid data. Here, we're talking about the population of dead soldiers. We got thousands. That increases the data that you could collect from.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
So now we're moving into Burnside Bridge. This is that late afternoon phase of this Battle of Antietam. So by then, fighting had shifted to what we now call Burnside Bridge, but it was known as Rohrbach Bridge at the time. Thousands of Union soldiers were trying to cross under relentless fire from the Confederacy. So they were bottlenecked at this point, and around 450 Confederate soldiers held off roughly 14,000 Union troops. And this lasted for hours, so it caused massive casualties before the bridge was finally taken.
So as far as like the documented ghost sightings in here, this is one of the most consistently reported haunted locations at Antietam. So visitors have reported seeing these blue glowing orbs that move near the bridge. There's also the sounds of the drumming or the marching cadence at night. And then, of course, that feeling of being watched, that infamous feeling. So one of the reasons, though, this place is said to be so haunted is because of all the reports that are tied to the fact that many of these soldiers were buried hastily in these unmarked graves nearby.
There were so many of them that died on this bridge again, just like over at the Trench Road.
The Bloody Lane.
Yeah, the Bloody Lane. They had to do something and clear the area because these are transport places. So you've got all the dead piled up on the bridge, and that supports the paranormal claims, the numerous paranormal claims. You've got all these bodies that are buried in a way that was hastily, like you said. That there's no ceremony to it. There's no identification of who's here. They're just mass graves with lots of people. But the blue bioluminescence glowing is interesting because that's a unique claim, but it's also a claim that's said in a lot of areas that are near marshes. But it is known that these bioluminescent gases are not scientifically present in the Antietam area. But though, if you've ever heard of will-o'-the-wisp, that's a ghostly glowing lights that's sometimes reported by marshy areas. There's a creek nearby, the Antietam Creek, and this isn't the living organism like the bioluminescents are, but rather the result of chemical reactions involving natural escaping methane. So,
Yeah.
and you've heard this before.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
usually something that people look into to try to debunk these kind of claims. And this is usually right over water, but it's from decaying organic matter.
Mm-hmm.
But the Antietam area is known for their memorial illumination that every December, the Antietam National Battlefield lights up the countryside with more than 23,000 glowing lanterns or luminaries to honor the lives that are lost during the Civil War. And there's a picture of this. We can post that too, with all the lanterns glowing all over the grass. And it's real pretty. I would think because it's put in a specific pattern that anybody who witnesses that would see that it's clearly lined up in a specific way. Almost like when you think of the battlefield at Normandy and they have all the uniform crosses that are all lined up. The lanterns are all lined up in a grid format, just like that.
Do you think they're mistaken?
I mean, it'd be if their lanterns glowing and if they use candles and some of them go out, maybe some of them stay lit up and they're starting to get dim. And maybe the paper that's used in the lantern could give it a bluish color at night, perhaps.
Don't
Maybe
you
that's
think,
what
though?
people are seeing. And you think people would be aware.
That's what I was going to say. Don't you think they'd be aware of
This
a thing
memorial
going on?
You would think so, but I guess if you're traveling and some people are just passing through and maybe don't know.
I don't know.
I
That
mean,
might be a
everything's
little far-fetched.
true, but it is an explanation.
Right.
So, Christy, is Antietam haunted?
I would say probably. And whether that be residual or intelligent, there's got to be something there. Looking at the lingering legends, okay? So many believe this is where the true haunting begins. You've got these spirits that are unable to move on because they're stuck there because of what happened to them. Then you also got energy that's imprinted. And then you have people who are witnessing these repeated sightings. And again, I think the majority of those are probably going to be residual. I do believe that there's some sort of intelligent haunting.
Odds are there's got to be with the numbers.
Absolutely. With the numbers of death, these casualties that occurred because of war.
My answer is a little bit different. I'd say, I'd call it historically haunted in the sense that it exerts a powerful psychological effect.
Sure.
That's grounded in real events. So some are collective memories and grief, while other experiences are their emotional weight projected into the environment. So the specific ghost claims are interesting, of course, especially the Bloody Lane reports, but the evidence is anecdotal and it's not strong enough to prove paranormal activity. It's just more stories. So what's undeniable is that people are definitely experiencing the place as deeply emotional and impactful. So Antietam may be uniquely haunted by imagery just as much as folklore, right? So just the stories are haunting if you want to reinvent the term, right? And the photographer, Gardner, his post-battle photographs were shocking to audiences. So this is the first time people were confronted with the dead in a way that Americans had never seen before.
Brought it to real life,
right?
Actually.
Photography was new and they'd never seen an image of a dead body before.
Yeah, and if you've never been to actual war, you don't really know all the details of really what's going on there.
You just can't relate to it. And so that matters because haunting often begins with some unfinished business. And Antietam was one of the first battlefields where the nation stared directly at the dead.
And here's what makes also Antietam so compelling is the fact that you don't need this flashy evidence. Like even the most skeptical person, if they were to visit Bloody Lane or some of these areas, but especially Bloody Lane, chances are they're going to feel like something is off. And if you're sensitive, especially you're psychic, then you're definitely, if you walk this area, you're going to know that there is some residual energy for sure left over. And who knows, maybe they would encounter an intelligent ghost. This is one of those things what I want to be there myself to be able to say, oh, yep, there's definitely some intelligent energy there, intelligent spirit anyway.
Yeah, I see a trip in our future Is that feeling an actual ghost, or is it our own emotions bringing us to this environment? But either way, whether it comes from spirits or something from the environment, grief, expectation, memory from some of those earlier accounts,
Mm-hmm.
the experience is still meaningful.
Very.
And so I guess it keeps those spirits alive if we keep recognizing them and all that they went through and honor them, especially on a day like today, recording, we're Memorial Day. And so these are soldiers who died for a cause for this country, to better this country, from whichever side that they were on, where their beliefs stood.
Oh, for sure. There's definitely going to be, like you said, that we can't forget those that lost their life in battle. And even the wars, even through all of our wars, you can't forget those people that lost their lives.
So how appropriate this recording landed. It won't be airing on Memorial Day, but
Close.
we recorded this on Memorial Day, so I think it's appropriate to kind of give this episode as a tribute to our Civil War soldiers from either side, dying for what they believed in, and soldiers from then on
Yeah.
and prior to.
And if there's anybody out there who have actually got to visit any of these Civil War sites, would love to hear from you. If you've experienced anything, if you've got anything, absolutely write in and let us know, because we want to hear what have been your experiences.
Right, and if you want us to read your story on our podcast, please let us know in your letter to us. We'd love to feature some stories in an upcoming episode, especially our anniversary episode. We've got our 1-year anniversary of this podcast coming up June
19th?
Yeah, June 19th.
Can you believe it's already been a year, almost a year? That is just crazy.
And this is our 50th episode.
Yes.
52 weeks in a year, so we got a couple weeks to go.
I know. That's just insane. So, yeah.
So if you are enjoying our podcasts and this series or any episode, and you have a favorite one or a favorite type of episode that we feature here on this podcast, write in and let us know, and we'd love to talk about it.
I know we're still planning to do on that 1-year anniversary, we'll have a bonus episode. Normally our episodes come out on Thursdays, but we could do this bonus anniversary episode on a Friday.
On the actual anniversary, so we can give you 2 episodes that week and hopefully make this anniversary episode a fun one, reflecting on the year, maybe giving some of your stories, and one special gift for our listeners. What is that, Christy?
You can write into us, and let's say you have a question that you want answered. So I'll focus in on that for you and then get an answer, and I'll include that in, if you're okay with it, of course, on our anniversary episode.
It helps, though, if you share a picture of yourself with Christy so that she can tune in and answer that one question for you. So if you've listened to this episode all the way to this point, you have a head start on getting a request in for us.
Right. Just email us in at psychicandskeptic, all one word, and let us know either your story. Let us know if you want a question answered by me. And by doing that, just send me your picture and your question, and I will get to work on that for you.
So you can find us wherever you enjoy your podcasts, and thank you for listening.
Because the paranormal is the normal.
Not yet understood.